That's my mom. That's person. I don't think this was for a podcast about let's just bring up random topics that makes no sense for this podcast. But then again, it's called, it does have autism in the name and ADHD.
That is Lita's version of introducing everyone. We were talking about smokes from wildfires before we got started on this podcast. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on today. I am so bad at introducing our guests that AI actually thinks I'm robot computer generated when I introduce our guests. So, would you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. My name is Jennifer Kaufman. I am a school principal at a school for kids with autism. I am also the grandmother of a 7-year-old little boy on the spectrum. I have written a book called Grandparenting on the Spectrum, and I work to advocate and support the relationships that people have with people who have autism in our communities and in our lives. And that's me.
There are so many interesting things when we did our pre interview that I was like, "Oh, I could probably come up with 5 or 6 different interviews for you." But today I wanted to talk about grandparents. And you, like you just said, you're a grandparent of a child on the spectrum. Grandparents, there's not a lot of resources out there for them. It's just kind of like, hi, your grandchild's autistic. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like when you found out your grandchild was autistic?
Sure. So as a grandparent, you go into this very excited. You're going to have this new grandchild in your life, this new little baby. And you have all sorts of expectations and visions in your head of what being a grandma is going to look like. I've wondered that since my own kids were little. And then you become a grandparent and you get that autism diagnosis and things start to change. And your expectations and your vision just gets adjusted a little bit, because even though you've raised kids on your own, even though you might be the matriarch or the patriarch of your family, the experts in the experts in what's good for the child are the parents, not the grandparents.
And I'm sure that's a hard thing, just even with neurotypical grandchildren. I know both sides of our families, the deal was grandparents are parents perfected. And I'm sitting there going, but you're not the one parenting in the current environment.
Right, right, and
And
right. You can continue because you're absolutely correct.
there were a lot of things we were looking at that might not have made sense in the 80s when I was a child, but with modern technology made a lot more sense to use in therapies with her. Like some of the speech and language pathology games that they were using in therapy, and not just my mom or my mother-in-law, but their entire age group were like, "Oh, but you can't use screens." And I'm like, "But the therapists are saying she's nonverbal, and this is something we're trying to do to make her verbal. So it's not the same as screen time, like sitting her in front of watching Coco Melon for the 15th gazillion time."
Right. Yeah, even understanding that a tablet that might be your child's communication device is not their entertainment device. So they might have two separate tablets that they're working with. And you would never take away the tablet that is the communication device, because that's like taking away somebody's voice. And, you know, grandparents come to the table with different set of expectations because they did, you're right, raise kids in a different generation at a different time. And yeah, we were told, don't put your child in front of the TV screen and don't, limit the use of the computer. But this is a different set of circumstances when you're trying to support a child with autism.
Especially like you said, a lot, and it's not just her. I advocate for other kids, and one of the things parents are saying is they're like, "But my mom, my dad, and my in-laws, they don't know what an ACC is, an assisted communication device." And I'm like, those did not exist when we were younger, so I kinda understand them not getting it, but once you explain that this is how they learn to talk, that should be the step back, grandparents. And I get that it's hard because you're also struggling, I think, and I haven't been there, but watching my mom's friends and her and my mother-in-law and her friends try to, like, maneuver into that parenting of the adult child to begin with, and it's a seems to be a totally different relationship than it was when you were parenting the child to begin with.
Right. And there's a certain amount, and this goes for typical kids who are or not neurodivergent, just typical kids. That whole idea that you're relinquishing, you're stepping back and you're taking all of that expertise and you're offering it when it's asked for, but you're not offering it every time you think you have a better idea. It's just never a good idea to do that.
And I know there were a lot of people who are once more my mom's age and my mother-in-law's age that had amazing advice that were willing to offer it when I asked for it. And I was a little bit more accepting of when I came up and went, "Hey, what do you know that I don't know?" Is that something you've seen when you're working with grandparents, that there's like a specific way to try and train them to give that advice?
Definitely. I have been, as a school principal, I sit in a lot of IEP meetings. Sometimes grandparents attend those IEP meetings. And there's a lot of input from the grandparents. Often it's encouraged and welcomed by the parents. But when it's not welcomed or when a grandparent chooses to overstep, it's a little cringy, right? Sort of like, oh, don't do that. When I have information from my daughter and her husband, rather than just sort of say, "Hey, this is what you need to do," I might send an email and say, "Here's something I read. Take what you like and leave the rest." And I'll never ask about it again. And occasionally I will hear back that, that the article was helpful or the information was helpful. Um, but, inserting your opinion and your information and just offering it unsolicited is a problem, because I tell you why, and maybe you'll agree. Um, Parents of children on the spectrum are hearing what they should do, what they shouldn't do, getting advice from everybody from the supermarket cashier to from other parents, from random strangers on the street. Your child is exhibiting a behavior in the community and you have people making comments and saying what they think you should be doing. And it's just this constant bombardment. And yes, I might be my daughter's mother, but on the flip side of the coin, I'm just another one of those opinions coming at her. And feeling that, you're always doing something wrong, that you need advice constantly is not a nice way to feel as a parent. Um, so as the grandparent, understanding that and stepping back and offering the advice when it's asked for and in a gentle way, not in a judgmental way, is important.
Well, no. When we were living in New Mexico with her both times when my husband was stationed down there, some of those abuelas could give the best advice that weren't normal advice because they would sit there and go, "Hey, did you know your favorite seasonal treat is back at Starbucks? And here's the Starbucks card that just happens to cost the exact same amount as that. It would be a good idea for you to go grab it for yourself today."
Now that's nice advice. That is very nice
And
advice.
shockingly, I took that advice. Or
Don't forget they would also say, "Child, take care of yourself."
directed at me, not at her. And that's like the advice you need, that kiddo, you need to go take care of yourself too. And that's not necessarily the advice that I was getting from outside that community, where people were like, "Oh, here's what you need to do for Lita." And it was also a lot of people going, "Well, because you're autistic, I need to tell you what to do for your child." And I'm like, well, maybe I kind of know a little bit more about what she might be going through.
Sure,
But
sure.
the abuelas would be sitting there going, "I made you a plate of cookies, and these are for you and not for Lita. And while she's taking a nap today, you should probably eat these cookies."
Well, part of my book, Grandparenting on the Spectrum, I do talk about how grandparents can offer advice. It's one thing to say, "Oh, if you ever need me, I'll babysit." But it's something entirely different to say, "Hey, Saturday night, why don't you and your husband go out, have a great time, and I've got this," and give very specific support, um, more than just like a general, "Oh, I'm here if you need me." Giving those specific instances of respite care is
And
helpful.
it is, yeah, it is. And I think sometimes from both having a child and watching other people, sometimes grandparents want to give all the advice on how to raise and not advice on how to take care of yourself. And sometimes it's like, okay, I get everyone else's advice and you're getting it from everyone because the speech and language pathologist has a different idea than the teacher, who has a different idea than the behavioral therapist, who has a different idea than the psychiatrist.
right? And the pediatrician and the developmental pediatrician and on and on and on. Like I said, you're getting bombarded as a parent with advice and opinions from people.
I was lucky her developmental pediatrician decided he's like, "You look like you're overwhelmed with other stuff. I will be the bad guy. You just send everyone to me when they give you advice."
Nice. That's a good doctor.
And, his son's about my age, so he decided he was just going to daddy me, and he's like, "I'll just be your daddy. Someone's gotta." But sometimes you also just found as a kid, sometimes it's like, could you just take all the advice? Just you as grandparent, just take all the advice and tell everyone that they're just crazy on some of this advice.
That's a nice way to be a support system.
'Cause, some of the advice, and I don't know if, your child who's the parent of the autistic, grandchild has heard it. It's like, well, if they slept more, they wouldn't be autistic.
Or if you make them eat that food they don't want to eat. Or
Yeah.
we were in a restaurant one day and Ben was having he was just loud, he was just expressing himself. And when my daughter went to walk him to the restroom, some man at a table, an elderly man and his wife, man said something super nasty. And my daughter kept, going on and didn't acknowledge him. But at the end of the meal, she went back to that man and she said, your comment was very inappropriate. It was hurtful. You do not know what we have gone through to get my son to where he is, that we're in a restaurant. And how dare you behave like that to another human being?
I
It was
had
so
a
proud of her.
pedi I had a pediatrician who was fresh out of, school, who she was their first autistic patient, who was like, "Well, when does she get over her autism and dyslexia?" It's like, "Hi, here's her developmental pediatrician's number. Go call him. He takes all the." And she was like, "Is there, like, a drug we can try to get her over this?"
Yeah, I've heard that from other grandparents. I've heard that question from neighbors who say, well, when is he going to grow out of this? And that's just such a off base kind of question. It's so misinformed. And, I when I hear things like that, I just want to get mad at people. But, I refrain from myself and I just try to educate, because hopefully that will get through and then they'll carry that message to other people that they might know.
Grandparents I have seen this happen, and it's sad, where the autistic grandchild doesn't wanna be around the grandparent because the grandparent has been, in their view, so judgmental, and it's sad because grandparents are supposed to be that amazing person. I know my grandma, that one would is still mad at my dad because he got my grandma sick last year, and she is like, "How dare you get my great grandma sick?" And you're supposed to have that kind of relationship with your grandparents.
Right, right.
You
Yeah,
and Grandma Dan.
we have family members that don't quite understand, and that, we're trying to support them. We're trying to support people the best we can because that's all you can do, really.
But yeah, I feel bad for the grandparents that are like, "I wanna help, and why am I doing this?" Yes, she's yelling at me from across the room. I have that kind of relationship with grandpa, but, some kids don't wind up with that with any of their grandparents because of the autism, and it's sad.
I
At least I
agree.
have one grandparent. Also,
Cutting
I
that out.
don't think the man was diagnosed.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Um, so there is not a lot of books. Back when, like, she was diagnosed, the only book for grandparents was something titled "How to Mourn the Grandchild You Will Never Have."
Ooh, ouch. That's terrible.
The idea that there's someone like you out there going, "No, no, we do not need to mourn that child, but we need to love that child." Just this is so impressive of a jump. And I wanted to ask, what made you think about doing this for other grandparents?
That's such a good question. Um, and I was just talking to somebody about this very thing. What motivated me? What motivated me was when I started noticing resistance from my daughter when I had something to offer. And as somebody who's been in special education and working with an autistic populations for about 20 years, I was sort of put off by that and shaken up by that because I'm like, this is valuable information. These are the world's top experts. What are you telling me? You don't need that. But then I really started thinking about what it is that causes that dynamic to happen. And that's what I ended up writing about how important it is to respect the knowledge of the parent and how important it is to respect our own knowledge, but to understand because we have that wisdom that stepping back is sometimes a stronger position than inserting ourselves where it's going to fall on deaf ears.
And I mean, not necessarily telling me the falling on deaf ears part. There was a lot of times that all of our parents' stuff fell on deaf ears, or I was going to our developmental pediatrician going, "Can you believe this stupidity they brought up to me?"
And
Um,
yeah, and both parties have to sort of approach it all with a good heart that understanding the parents' frustration, and of course the parents acknowledging that the grandparenting role is an important one, like you were saying, and nurturing that in a way that can support ultimately the grandchild and the adult child. And that's what I hope to do with this whole endeavor is to just support grandparents to understand that they have a very special role in their children's lives, their grandchildren's lives, and supporting them and being able to fulfill that role.
and I think it probably does get annoying, like, because of my PhD, when I walked into her developmental pediatrician who is one of the best in the country, like, we lucked into having him. He was like, "Okay, let's talk papers," and I'm like, "Oh, yes, dear Frank, let us talk papers." So, by time I was getting advice from everyone else, it was like, "That is, like, 7 or 8 years old. This is what's coming out in the neurology journals now that you're not getting because 'cause they're behind paywalls," which then made me kinda discount everything they were saying at that point.
Yeah, there's certainly a timeliness to the information that it comes out, and things have been changing so very rapidly. Um, but it's hard to stay ahead of it, right?
It is. I think this year, every single journal of neurology has had something new about autism that they've published.
hmm and that is why I didn't even get close to that clinical piece in my book because I didn't want it to be a clinical guide to autism. I wanted it to be more from the perspective of one grandparent to another. How do you set up your house for a child with autism? How do you maintain phone conversations with a child that has very limited communication? Um,
All of which would have been helpful when she was little for grandparents.
well, I can't go back in time,
I
but
know.
hopefully we
I
can.
know. I just
All I'm
think
gonna say is that if it likes taking things apart, just make sure the breakable stuff isn't near its little hands. If it likes taking things apart.
Are you
she's
saying making sure that if it's a child who likes to take things apart, then
especially if their name is Lita. The, amount of things that she wanted to take apart and see what they look like, or she did not have spatial awareness as a child, and we would go into grandparents' house, and I'm like, "This is not childproof for this child."
right, right, but if they maybe had a little space and some very appropriate toys and items to take apart, and you knew they were there every time you went to grandma's house, that might have been giving you some comfort, knowing that there's some stuff there for you to do.
Just stopped going to grandparents' house because it was a little less traumatic on me.
Okay, that's another
'Cause
option.
I felt like I was spending all the time trying to keep her from breaking everything.
Mhm, mhm.
My house was a little more proof of not child breaking every single thing just because they wanted to badly figure out what the inside looked like.
But it was things like that that they would have it childproof for, like, "Well, this is the age she's at." I'm like, "But her mind does not work that way."
Right. There are certain toys that are at my house, and in fact, I've brought them to the other grandparents' house on a drop off, And it was like, no, 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 no. Those toys have to stay at your house. Those are that grandma's toys. And that's the way it is. And he won't play with the toys in other locations. He'll only play with them at my house because we've established that.
Well, we had the problem of her dad's military. We weren't living near the grandparents. So we were coming up like once a year. And it's like, I know you're not baby proofing for her for once a year, but maybe we should just have you guys come to us from now on because I can proof our house where she's got the toys she can play with and she's not outgrowing them by the time we get back next year.
Mhm. And see something like that, a suggestion like that, as grandparents, I would advise other grandparents, don't take that personally. Just take that as a good suggestion from a parent who knows her child. The end, you know?
And it was like they all took it personally. They're like, "But I know." And I'm sitting there going, "But you don't know her, and she's going to destroy your house."
Right. And so that I think that's a great example of that idea of respecting parents' opinion.
And the talking on the phone because or we were like, "Well, maybe we can Skype and, her dad or I can be on Skype," back when Skype was a thing, and then I got on Zoom a lot earlier than anyone else because I was Zooming in 2017, and when we went to 2020, I'm like, "I know Zoom, I'm good." But they were like, "No, we need to do it this way." And I'm like, "She can't really do it that way. It's not making the same connection with her." And there wasn't resources out there from a grandparent's point of view. It was just a bunch of I mean, even back then, 14 years ago, it was still very much, you will make the child do what they're going to do. And it's like, that's not going to help you guys much.
Right. That's not good for anyone.
I'm like, as I reminded my parents at one point in time, I'm like, you hung a bicycle of mine up for a year straight. I outgrew that bicycle because I am so stubborn because of my autism. Do you think that this has just changed in autism somehow?
Yeah,
You
we
would
we
think.
talk a lot about holidays too, because right, holidays come with tons of expectations of what this holiday is going to look like from a grandparent's point of view, right? And we're carrying on the traditions. And in this case, traditions have to be adjusted and changed, and expectations have to change. And as much as we want everyone to have a good holiday, that everyone includes the person who has autism who might have a very specific diet. Maybe they just want chicken fingers and french fries for Thanksgiving, and that's okay.
Um, heard, what are you saying?
Or actually good mac and cheese for that one time. That
Well, that-
one time. That was terrible mac and cheese. That wasn't even good. I'm pretty sure that mac and cheese was literally just made from clay.
So and it wasn't even when a grandparent did. That child is a mac and cheese connoisseur, and it is not a Kraft mac and cheese child.
Good for you.
And her favorite was Sprouts out here did a truffle. They quit doing their truffle white cheddar. I had to go find the dupe because the autistic child fell in love with the white cheddar truffle oil mac and cheese.
Nice. Very nice. You have good taste.
And this is things the grandparents are like, well, just like give her Kraft mac and cheese. And I'm like, it does not work that way.
No. If you're gonna feed me, at least not feed me like you're feeding a pig you're abusing. Abusing.
But the holidays, we wound up just not going to holidays at either of our families because it was easier to not have to deal with that.
Mhm.
And both sets of parents at first were kind of upset. And it's like, she needs things very specifically. With my side of the family, I have a nephew who's also autistic, but he lives a couple blocks away from my parents. Makes more sense for the holidays to center around what he needs since he's the one going there all the time. And it's the weird things like we will get phone calls. How long? Why hasn't Lita opened all of her presents yet? Because she opens one present, she plays with it. Then she has to open the next present.
Right. Right. It's again adjusting, 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 which we should be experts at as the older, wiser people.
I think sometimes so.
Plus, I have no motor skills on my fingers. And
She-
they put paper wrap on it.
So she had major, small, fine motor skill issues and had to go to years of occupational therapy for it. And all the grandparents wrapped it in wrapping paper, and it would take her like 30 minutes sometimes to unwrap a present. And it was easier to do away from everyone. So there was no expectation of her being able to unwrap it quickly.
Right. Right.
But it's the things like that that as a parent living with her 24/7, I knew that was going to be a problem.
Mhm.
But the grandparents who especially were not even living in the same state, they're not understanding when I'm going, "This is a problem." They're like, "Oh, no, you're just making that up."
Yeah. And you're not.
And I can understand why they're like, "Oh, they're just making it up." And it also didn't help. She was premature, so you add that to the autism. And my husband's mom had the unfortunate issue of her son's first Christmases were a couple days before their first birthday. So you take the premature child and compare her first Christmas and second Christmas and third Christmas to kids who were like, my husband's birthday is 2 days after Christmas. So he literally was like a toddler opening and she's barely holding her head up.
Right.
And it's like you can't ask it to be the exact same as it was for him because there's going to be a minor delay.
Yes, need to be made, and that's okay.
And I think sometimes both sets of grandparents forget how early she was too, because you take that autism and especially in her early years, add the premature birth on top of it, and that's a whole different kit and caboodle.
Mhm. Mhm. I'm sure.
But, because she was, we lied because the OBGYN would not go in, and we lied and said I was 37 weeks, but she was 32 weeks when we induced labor.
Oh, boy.
But my hemoglobin count was 6, and my doctors were like, "You can't do this anymore. We gotta get a baby out."
Gotcha. Wow. Congrats.
But and she was a very big 32 weeks, and, I'm not sure I'd want she was 6 pounds at 32 weeks. I'm not sure I'd want that child at full term. But, yeah, the, holidays it is a total different kit and caboodle, like I said, and it's the simple things like the dishes and stuff and the traditional dishes, and it's gotta be hard as a grandparent because not only you have that autistic kid, but you've also got a child-in-law who has their own traditions who they wanna meld with their kid.
Sure. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of players when it comes to holidays. Multiple sets of grandparents and parents and aunts and uncles and cousins, and it's a big it's a big production, that's for sure in many cases.
So, do you have any advice for grandparents who are like, "Oh, I have to mold all this, including the autism together now?"
My advice, let it go. Let it go. Really identify what parts of that holiday and what parts of that tradition are important that you want to preserve, and figure out a way to make it inclusive and to make it supportive of everybody who's at the event. And then, some things just have to go. Some things have to fall by the wayside, and that's okay. That is okay. Because something, as you know, with people who have autism, this year, turkey's off the table, literally. Next year, it might be an entirely different situation. We roll
Wait,
with
she's like, "Turkey? We have a turkey. It's a low breast that your father eats because neither you nor I eat turkey the same way he eats turkey. So we gave him his own little turkey breast."
That's okay.
He's weird. I say it. He weird. He's weird.
He's
He's
weird.
weird in only factors.
He has to have his turkey though, because that's in his autism is he's like, "I will have turkey. It is Thanksgiving. We will have turkey." So
How
we
much
buy
longer
him.
until we can drag him on the podcast?
She's been trying to
But
get her
then
dad to come
again,
on.
if we drag him on the podcast, this will just become a podcast about rocks.
He's a rock nerd. But
No, 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 no. He is the king of rock nerds. He is the king of rock nerds.
sometimes when dealing with my parents and his parents, I'm like, you should know autism because my husband is so rock nerdy. He will stop on an interstate highway to go look at a rock cutout. And I'm like, you have had to deal with him for 40 plus years, 4 decades. At which point did you not figure out how autism works?
That's funny. I think that there was a lot of autism out there forever, and it's just that it wasn't identified as that.
With all the therapies he went to, I'm not sure a doctor didn't diagnose him and just didn't tell his parents, which was a thing in the 80s and 90s.
Gotcha.
Because he was going back to the elementary school to finish his speech and language pathology.
Interesting.
I'm like, honey, you were diagnosed. Someone just didn't tell your parents.
So funny. The other
And
thing
I,
I would suggest to grandparents is if they have the resources to gift swimming lessons. I think that swimming lessons are one of the swimming is one of the crucial skills that someone with autism needs. Drowning, the percent of drowning and accidental deaths is over 90% of people with autism. And I think that teaching those crucial swimming skills is one way to help get that number down.
And they now have plenty more. Like when she was little, my mom was going to try and find her swim lessons, but because of her autism, none of the swim schools in our area in Florida would take her. And we were living in Florida by the coast where you would definitely want swim lessons.
Yeah.
But now there's swim schools all over the country that work specifically with autistic
Yes, there
swimmers.
are. Yes, there are. So that would be my most significant recommendation because I really think that that would change lives.
Oh, yeah. But that yeah, was not expecting that one, but that is definitely one that would change lives like there's no tomorrow. The other thing is, like, I know a question she's always getting asked because she's homeschooled and we have had to change her curriculum for her dyslexia and her dysgraphia. And she's always getting asked by grandparents, like, what are you doing in school? And it puts her on the spot. What do you suggest with grandparents asking about what they're doing academically with the autistic child?
I think that asking very open-ended questions like, how's school going? Or what are you doing in school? That's just a tremendous open-ended question that is difficult to answer in the best of circumstances. I think that, if it's a child who reads, asking, what did you read this week? It's very specific. Or can you tell me 3 things that made you happy at school this week? Can you, just zero in on very specific types of questions that could have very specific types of answers. It doesn't just leave it open ended for the child to pull it out of thin air.
That makes a lot of sense because I've also had a few grandparents at studio because she run or has a nonprofit dance studio she founded for autistic dancers. They're like, I ask these questions and I'm like, I would be giving you a deer in the headlight look going. And what answer am I supposed to be giving you? Because that's what my little brain is thinking is which answer did you want me to give you today?
Right. Right. But asking, is there a song you like to tap dance to the most this week? Like, is there a song that you like to tap dance to, Lita?
That was a question to you. Is there a song you like to tap dance to? I did not catch that one, but whichever one it is her current one.
Freight train.
Freight Train. Yeah, Freight Train by
What's a
Aaron
freight
Watson.
train, you person?
No,
You
okay.
you said
Freight
it a
was
little
a
too quick
train.
for me.
Freight, what's the freaking train?
Aaron
Freight
Watson.
was a train.
Looks like that
Aaron,
one's really happy.
oh, it's a song by a Red Dirt, Texas country artist, all about life on the road as a touring artist. That it's all like being a freight train.
That's very cool.
And she likes tap dancing to the off the beat Red Dirt country.
Okay. Fun.
But she's come up through urban tap, which is a mix of hip hop and tap.
Well, that's cool. That's very cool.
So she cannot do the pretty lyrical stuff you see on Broadway. That stuff confuses her because with her autism, she learned urban tap and she does not understand lyrical. It just wasn't what she was taught. And I've tried to explain that to people. It's like what you're taught is what you kind of know sometimes.
Sure. That makes sense. I bet you're really
Um,
good at it.
she's working with one of the best choreographers in the country.
Nice. Well, that's great to hear.
And yeah, she has been since she was 8. So, it's been what, 6 years now that you've been working with Chloe? Maybe. I don't remember. It's been a while. Yeah, 6 years. Which, when she started working with Chloe, she still wasn't speaking full sentences, but she was working with one of the best choreographers in the country.
That's
Which
great.
it kind of was. What were you going to say, child?
Don't forget that people were also annoyed that your child who couldn't speak full sentences wasn't actually speaking to them because they couldn't speak full sentences.
Had a lot of adults who were very upset that she would not carry on conversations when she was nonverbal. And I'm like, the term nonverbal here
That's
should
all
be
we're at, 40
self-explanatory.
minutes.
Right. Right. Lita, do you have videos on YouTube that we can watch?
Her mic is dying on her, it seems
Oh,
like.
okay.
Lita, do you have videos on YouTube? She's got videos.
Yeah. All
She
right.
has grown up with a bunch of Hollywood kids who are like, you let your parents remember all that stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, she's got them on YouTube and Instagram and a few on TikTok.
That's very cool.
And she's working on, we're going to be doing a couple golf themed fundraisers this year. So she's learning to golf and tap at the same time.
Oh, those are very different activities.
Our vice president of our dance studio is a little autistic herself and saw Fred Astaire doing it on an old movie reel and was like, ooh, I know what we're going to do. She is also a little producer. She keeps me on track here on time. She's also very teenage. We could just keep talking to you, Jennifer. We are going to have you back on the show if that's not a problem with you.
That's not a problem at all.
I do know you also have been working with the firefighters on interacting with the autistic community, and I want to touch on that at some point in time in a future episode.
Sure. Yeah, my first response autism, training first responders to better support individuals with autism in the community is a goal of mine as well.
Yeah, I mean, that is so important. I know here in Colorado, we've lost a couple of our autistic community just with their interactions with first responders and training them how to work, because the first statement all of them have were, well, I didn't know how to deal with it.
Exactly.
But before we let you go, is there anything else that I didn't touch on that you really want to make sure our audience knows about?
Well, I certainly welcome people to visit my website at grandparentingonthespectrum.com. My book, Grandparenting on the Spectrum, is also available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And, I welcome you to send any kind of questions, or I love interacting with other grandparents and talking about the challenges that you face and having chats about that. So, yeah, I encourage people to reach out.
I am muting myself like there's no tomorrow. Getting used to this new studio setup is going to be an interesting one. We will have all that in the description below. We will have it on the website. And I am starting a resource page on our website because I am getting tired of being out and about and people asking me about resources. And I know I have that resource somewhere. I just don't know where it is. So I am putting it all on a resource page. Do you mind if we go ahead and put your website and your book on our website as a resource?
Please feel free. Yeah, that's great.
Wonderful, because I think it will really help a lot of grandparents and probably save a few relationships between parents and grandparents.
I hope so. That's the goal.
We loved having you on today. We can't wait to have you on again, Jennifer, and we will talk to you later.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting with you guys. Bye.
All right, let me.
Hello, thank you for watching the podcast, and please subscribe and also look at that adorable paper. So if you want to subscribe for it, and also please leave a like. And don't forget, if you subscribe to our stuff, you won't miss any of our new podcast stuffies. And also, did you see that adorable paper? Don't you like it?